That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, so now that we have the NFL draft, we have a couple of these players losing value on the veteran side. We have a couple of these rookies gaining in value. We are going to go through our cornerstone running back rankings. Now, let me be very clear with how we're defining this. Now, I'm not saying these are the only running backs you can build around a dynasty. Of course, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is these are the youngest options that if you are a rebuilding roster and you want to just say, hell, I'll bet on a 22-year-old. I'll bet on a 23-year-old running back. They're going to be included. Now, how we define this is running backs that were either drafted in 2021, 2022, but you were able to be drafted in 2020 if you were only 23 years old today. Okay, so if you're only 23 years old, I think we'll still classify you as a long-term option, even though a couple of these players we'll get to at the beginning, I don't think are actually long-term options. Now, of course, before we get into it, please go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and let's just dive into our first player here, and we are going to go top to bottom. We're going to do a top 10, but we're going to save the best for last, and we're going to start with the worst in Clyde EdwardsHelaire. Now, trust me, I get it. I'm there with you. I agree. Clyde EdwardsHelaire is a bad NFL running back, and if you think that there is someone that I am leaving off this list, please let me know who needs to be above Clyde EdwardsHelaire. I will say he just turned 23 years old. Like, it legitimately just happened. And more importantly, the offense he's playing in, the fact that he has no competition for touches whatsoever, is going to make him a running back in the top 10. There's not too much to discuss. What I will bring up is the fact that I think one of the best targets at the running back position every single year comes from a running back in a great NFL offense that has an uncertain backfield. A running back that the majority of fantasy football drafters, the majority of dynasty managers are all in agreement that he is untalented, that the player is quote unquote washed, that we don't know if he'll be the starting running back. We don't know what his role will be, but he's in a great NFL offense. We saw this back last season with James Conner, with Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette was being drafted behind Ronald Jones last year in fantasy drafts. People are forgetting that. While Leonard Fournette looked great in that playoff stretch, Leonard Fournette was left for dead. Leonard Fournette was a running back that was a healthy scratch at points in 2020. Now, with James Conner as well, James Conner was being drafted right alongside Chase Edmonds. James Conner was getting paid less than $2 million by the Arizona Cardinals. The NFL had left James Conner for dead. Dynasty managers had believed that James Conner no longer was talented. And what ends up happening is you have those players. You have a James Conner. You have a Leonard Fournette going way too low just because. I don't want to say just because, but primarily because the fantasy football community is too confident in their ability to project running backs when it really comes down to opportunity and the efficiency of the overall offense. Like, if we pull up where Clyde EdwardsHelaire is right now from a redraft perspective, Clyde EdwardsHelaire currently being drafted as the running back 27 on Underdog Fantasy. Let me pull up Keep Trade Cut to figure out where he's going there, because of course Keep Trade Cut's going to give us a better idea of how the dynasty community is valuing Clyde EdwardsHelaire, but I have a feeling that it's not going to be much higher than his redraft ADP, and I would say that because he's only 23 years old, he should be valued higher in dynasty than in redraft. Can we all get on board with that, saying Clyde EdwardsHelaire turned 23 legitimately just like yesterday? He should be ranked higher in dynasty leagues than he will be in redrafts. But on Underdog Fantasy, he's going as the running back 27 off the board. With Keep Trade Cut, he's the running back 31. At some point, maybe you have to go ahead and trade for Clyde EdwardsHelaire in Dynasty. If there's this discrepancy between his redraft, real money ADP in his Dynasty League value, where right now he's being valued in the same tier of Damian Harris, Chase Edmonds, Rachaad White, Isaiah Spiller, James Robinson. Those are the players being drafted after Clyde EdwardsHelaire. I don't think he's a talented running back in the slightest. I don't think he's talented, but I think there's a reason people on Underdog are drafting him higher. And please, if you are not drafting on Underdog yet, go sign up. Go use promo code FLOCK when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy. They'll match your deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You will get our 2022 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. You'll get our 2022 Dynasty Rankings, our 2022 Rankings, our Rookie Rankings. You'll get so much, but most importantly, you'll get into drafts with us on the live streams. Most importantly, you'll get into drafts with your friends. You'll get into drafts in the public lobby, and you will have some fun. That is the most important thing here. Please go to the link in the description. Use promo code FLOCK. I'm grossed out talking Clyde EdwardsHelaire. Let's move to our next running back. Let's go over to someone that we were saying to sell high at the beginning of the offseason. His value's come down a ton since then. It's going to be Elijah Mitchell. Now, here with Elijah Mitchell, he's currently being drafted as the running back 24 on Underdog. And if you're looking at his Dynasty ADP, right there, he is currently the running back 23. Elijah Mitchell obviously drafted last offseason. So if we're looking at a running back going into year 2, we should maybe assume that his Dynasty value should be higher than his redraft value. Maybe I'm ignorant in just making those assumptions. Now, I have my concerns. He's a first and second down running back. He has no team investment. We already see the 49ers going out of their way and investing into this backfield with a running back in the third round, in the top 100 picks. That's higher than where Elijah Mitchell was selected. Of course, I'm projecting Elijah Mitchell to be the starter here. That's why he's in our top 10 Cornerstone rankings. And let me repeat myself. No, I'm not preferring Clyde EdwardsHelaire. I'm not preferring Elijah Mitchell over guys like Joe Mixon. No, these aren't just regular Dynasty rankings. These are players that are either 23 years old or younger, or were drafted last season or this season. Okay. Now, I don't want to talk anymore about him. Let's go over to Antonio Gibson. A player falling down rankings. It doesn't matter if you're looking at redraft. It doesn't matter if you're going to be looking at Dynasty leagues. Antonio Gibson has plummeted in Dynasty in particular. Right now, he's fallen 35 spots according to Keep Trade Cut. He is currently the 69th player ranked overall. This is a running back that is definitely falling for the right reasons. I love me some Antonio Gibson. Coming out of college, he checked every single box. Nobody was higher on Antonio Gibson than we were in 2020. I mean, if you pull up our 2022 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, when we show our running back prospect model and we show our previous evaluation compared to where Dynasty ADP had him, you can see we had Antonio Gibson graded out legitimately as an elite level prospect, despite him going at the end of the second round, the beginning of the third round of those rookie drafts. I love me some Antonio Gibson. But the issue is the coaching staff in Washington doesn't love Antonio Gibson. The coaching staff in Washington went out there and re-signed J.D. McKissic for J.D. McKissic to play on third downs. They went out there and they drafted Brian Robinson in the top 100 draft picks. There could be a couple reasons for this. I think one of the reasons, however, is with Antonio Gibson. He led the NFL in fumbles last year, and you are probably shocked that I'm ever bringing up fumbles because it's something that I never talk about because it's damn near impossible to predict. I mean, if you're going out of your way and you're trying to project fumbles going from one season to the next, you are going to do a very poor job because the correlation is not high whatsoever. But what I will say is, if he is in the doghouse with this coaching staff, which the actions of the front office may indicate, and on top of this, the coaching staff never allowed him a third down role. If he comes out, fumbles at the beginning part of the season, I would not be surprised if his role shrinks even more. I love the player, an elite athlete. He's massive. I wanted to believe he was going to be a great pass-catching running back out of the backfield. Hasn't happened so far. He's going to make the list. He was drafted in 2020, only 23 years old. We're going to have him down here at 7, though. And now going over to 6. This is where we get a tier jump. This is where we get to some running backs that I think we can talk about in a more positive light. We are going to have Kenneth Walker here as our running back 6. Now with Kenneth Walker, he has his own red flags. This is a running back that will not catch passes in the backfield in Seattle. I don't want to talk about him too long because I'm sure you are tired of hearing me talk about these rookies. I'm sure you're tired of hearing me talk about Kenneth Walker. But this is a running back that we know is going to be handling the first and second down workload for the Seattle Seahawks. I know some people are saying, oh, well, Rashad Penny's there. Rashad Penny signed a 1-year deal. Rashad Penny hasn't been able to stay healthy for a 5-game stretch outside of one time at the very end of last season. Trust me, if we're grading these players, if we're grading Rashad Penny coming out of San Diego State versus Kenneth Walker this offseason, I'm taking Rashad Penny, the prospect. I think Rashad Penny is an elite level talent. But from a dynasty fantasy football perspective, when we're building rosters here, it simply does not matter when Rashad Penny has not shown the ability to stay healthy. And on top of this, even if he does stay healthy this upcoming year, next offseason, he's gone. I think the Seattle Seahawks showed us that by drafting Kenneth Walker in the 2nd round here. He's going to be the 1st and 2nd down running back for the Seattle Seahawks for years to come. Not much else to discuss. This is a team that does have a very bad offense, but I think it could get better next offseason with how many draft picks they have and the cap space they're going to have as well. Now let's go over to our next running back in Travis Etienne. With Travis Etienne here, a running back that does check every single box. He'd be lower than this if it wasn't for the James Robinson injury, but I believe the torn Achilles for James Robinson is going to open the door for Travis Etienne to live up to the potential we were selling him at last offseason. Remember, last offseason, I came out and I was talking nonstop about the things that matter, the things that mattered in valuable touches in an NFL offense. For running backs to show the ability that they can handle a role at the goal line, for running backs to show the ability so they can get the targets out of the backfield. The two things that lead to fantasy football production. This is why we were drafting DAndre Swift, saying, hell, give Jamal Williams the carries between the 20s. The carries between the 20s aren't going to equal fantasy points anyway. With DAndre Swift, this is a running back that, yeah, he's going to be playing in a bad offense, but he'll get every target out of the backfield. And on top of this, he will also get that red zone usage based on his size. With Etienne, I'm saying the same thing. We've been saying this for years now. Travis Etienne and DAndre Swift, they are the same running back. Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara, they were the same running back. This is the new generation's Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara. That's what Travis Etienne and DAndre Swift are. With Etienne, please understand in a PPR format that the Jacksonville Jaguars can be very bad, and it may not matter if you're catching 5 balls every single week out of the backfield. Now, let's go over to our next running back we are going to have ranked directly ahead of Travis Etienne. He's a winner from the NFL draft. We're going to have J.K. Dobbins. There was the big scare with J.K. Dobbins whenever there were the rumors that you were going to get Melvin Gordon going over to Baltimore. With Dobbins, very similar to Kenneth Walker in that this is a running back that I'm not necessarily projecting to ever handle a 3-down workload, never expecting him to get targeted out of the backfield, but he is an elite level athlete. J.K. Dobbins, one of the fastest running backs in the NFL, and we know that he is playing in a highly efficient offense. This was a running back that led the NFL in yards per carry his first season in Baltimore. Now, what I will say is, I'm not saying J.K. Dobbins is the most talented running back in the league because he led the NFL in yards per carry as a rookie. What I am saying with J.K. Dobbins, however, is this is a running back that is playing alongside Lamar Jackson. And when Lamar Jackson's your quarterback, when he goes to hand it off to you, defensive coordinators and opposing linebackers, they have to adjust. They cannot just crash in on that running back. Usually, if a Drew Brees type quarterback goes to hand it off to Alvin Kamara, if you're an opposing linebacker, you know it's either A, going to be a running play, B, it's going to be a play action. Either way, you don't have to set that. Either way, you're not standing still, kind of waiting to see what happens. But if Lamar Jackson goes to hand that ball off, Lamar Jackson can take it off the edge. You have to pause. You have to wait a second. And that allows these running backs like J.K. Dobbins to lead the NFL in yards per carry. That allowed Gus Edwards to be a top 10 running back in 2020 in yards per carry as well. It's not because these are the most talented running backs in the league. It's because they're playing behind a great offensive line. That offensive line should be just as good this upcoming season. And they're playing alongside Lamar Jackson, who should be healthy this upcoming year. And with Dobbins, I'm not too concerned about the injury because it happened at the very beginning of the season last year. He didn't even get to play a single game. So if you're looking at a 9-month timetable, J.K. Dobbins should be good by training camp. Like, he'll be good for training camp. He'll be good for NFL preseason. Completely fine ranking J.K. Dobbins here. And now let's go over to a running back that I probably owe y'all an entire video on. Let's go over to Cam Akers. With Akers, if you pull up Keep Trade Cut right now, there hasn't been a single player that has fallen as much in value for, in my opinion, no reason at all, such as Cam Akers this offseason. This is a running back that at one point in Dynasty was ranked as the running back 6. That was on January 22nd. Cam Akers was the running back 6 on Keep Trade Cut in Dynasty. Now you've seen Cam Akers falling down to the running back 18. Cam Akers was the youngest running back in the NFL back in that 2020 draft. And I'll admit, yes, Cam Akers looked very bad in the Super Bowl. He looked very bad with the Los Angeles Rams playoff stretch. Nobody can deny that. You go through and you look at every measure. That running game could not get anything going. Cam Akers was a reason in that as well. But if you're looking at Cam Akers, this was a running back that suffered that torn Achilles right before the season started. If you look at the typical timetable for a torn Achilles, longer than the ACL, longer than 9 months, Akers wasn't supposed to play whatsoever. Akers rushed himself back from that injury. He was also dealing with a shoulder injury as well during that playoff stretch. And most importantly, it was a small sample of Cam Akers going up against some of the best run defenses in the entire NFL, such as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Dynasty community looked at that small sample, and I get it. It's the NFL playoffs. He went up in the Super Bowl. Everybody watched it. Everybody watched Cam Akers disappoint in that 1 month when he was not fully recovered from his significant injury, and he was dealing with another injury at the same time, and they're overreacting. Like, if we're looking at this, Cam Akers, I believe he is 22 years old. Let me pull this up just to be sure. But yeah, Cam Akers, 22 years old right now, does not turn 23 until late June. He's a 22-year-old running back that on Underdog, where you have to be 18 to play, every league's a real money league, he's being drafted as the running back 15. And in Dynasty leagues, he's being drafted as the running back 18. Akers may be one of the best buys in Dynasty. I'm going to make an entire video just on Cam Akers. I'm going to do it because we haven't even got into his prospect profile. Cam Akers, if you look at his prospect profile, he would have been the running back 2 in this draft class, only behind Bryce Hall. Like, this is a fantastic player playing in an elite level offense. Go get some Cam Akers, please. Now, our next guy, Javonte Williams. With Javonte, obviously another faller. This is a running back that's going to be having to deal with Melvin Gordon yet again this upcoming season. Melvin Gordon out there, had pretty much just the same level of production as what you had with Javonte Williams his rookie season. Now, I'll say Javonte Williams, for anybody who had eyeballs, Javonte Williams looked like the better running back between the two, but there's no reason to believe that this Denver Broncos coaching staff will be changing the deployment of these two running backs dramatically, or I wouldn't really understand why Melvin Gordon signed there if the coaching staff was like, hey, yeah, come here. Just know Javonte Williams is better than you. Just know that you're most likely going to be a backup running back at this point. I am concerned with the workload that he is going to take. This is why you saw him falling on Underdog. Now he's being drafted as the running back 11. But Javonte Williams is an incredibly talented running back. This is someone that's playing in a very stable situation going forward. We know he's going to have to deal with Melvin Gordon this upcoming year, but if anything were to occur to Melvin Gordon, then Javonte Williams does have top 3 running back upside overall based on the offense he's playing in, based on the efficiency we saw as a rookie. And on top of this, Melvin Gordon shouldn't be a threat starting in 2023. So in 2023, we can assume that Javonte Williams will walk into that bell cow running back role. I still think he's a top 5 running back in Dynasty. Right now on Keep Trade Cut, he's currently the running back 3. He's fallen a little bit with Melvin Gordon coming back, but to me, that is ludicrous. I don't think we can have Javonte Williams ahead of a player that we'll talk about in just a second. Let's go to our next guy. Let's go over to Bryce Hall. With Bryce Hall, what is there to say? I've talked about it at length. He's a 20-year-old player that checks every single box. He was a bell cow in college. He's better than Michael Carter in every way imaginable. Michael Carter may play 20-25% of the snaps this upcoming season. Maybe he gets up to 30-35% of snaps. That won't be a large enough role to really affect either Michael Carter or Bryce Hall on a per-game basis. Michael Carter is now just a primary handcuff running back, should be viewed in a similar light as Tony Pollard, as Alexander Madison, a running back with upside, but you cannot start unless Bryce Hall goes down in front of him. The issue with Bryce Hall is nothing to do with his workload and nothing to do with the player himself. The issue is, do you believe with Zach Wilson? Do you believe with the New York Jets front office that this can be an above average offense going forward? I am uncertain if that's the case, but I am certain that Bryce Hall is an elite level player that should be valued as such immediately. So we are going to have him here. And now our next player is going to be DAndre Swift. DAndre Swift currently going behind Javonte Williams on keep trade cut. And I don't see why. DAndre Swift, 23 years old in a full PPR format. He's essentially Travis Etienne that has proven himself. He's Travis Etienne that has proven himself at the NFL level. Yes, it's a very bad offense with Detroit, but what we could end up finding is we could find that possibly Jameson Williams opens up this overall offense, and that's going to allow a higher rushing efficiency for DAndre Swift. Maybe the upgrades with the defensive line as well keep games a little bit closer, a little more competitive for the Detroit Lions. I actually really like the addition of Jameson Williams because Williams is not going to command a very high target share, and I think it is going to allow DAndre Swift to have significantly more space to operate underneath. Now let's go to our number two running back on this list. Let's go over to Najee Harris. With Najee Harris, the reason we had to put the little asterisks on, say 23 years old or younger or drafted last season, is because Najee Harris is technically 24. But this is a running back that last year was Christian McCaffrey level bell cow. He was Christian McCaffrey level bell cow and not allowing any other running backs in Pittsburgh to even get on the field. And we saw the durability at Alabama. We saw the ability for Najee Harris to command that workload in Pittsburgh as well. This is an offense that, of course, is losing Ben Roethlisberger, but there's an outside chance this team's even better. There's an outside chance that bringing in Kenny Pickett and Mitchell Trubisky, whichever one proves to be the starting quarterback this upcoming year for Pittsburgh, there's an outside chance that they're better than what Ben Roethlisberger was last season. Not prime Ben Roethlisberger. Of course, there's a 0% chance of that. But Ben Roethlisberger was very bad last year. So if we are looking at the potential for Najee Harris to be playing in a slightly improved offense, if Chase Claypool, if George Pickens, if Deontay Johnson can open everything up, and if he is going to be able to command 22 to 24 touches every single game, which we've seen before, it's hard to find a safer bet in fantasy football than Najee Harris right now. Now, our running back one is going to be Jonathan Taylor. With Jonathan Taylor, what do you want me to say? I feel like I'm wasting your time if I say anything. He's the best running back in football. He's Derrick Henry-esque, plus a little bit of passing game ability. Playing behind a very good offensive line. Matt Ryan coming over. I know a lot of people think Matt Ryan's going to improve this offense. I personally don't think that this offense is all of a sudden going to get dramatically better with no Carson Wentz and instead of Matt Ryan in there. I think they are comparable at this point in Matt Ryan's career. It is what it is. Jonathan Taylor, running back one. There's nothing I can even say. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you. Of course, please go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And that's all I got for you. I hope you have a great day.